So Behavior Matters is a behavior analytic clinic, and we serve children with autism in Alaska, California, and Nebraska. But I'm here to talk with you today about something that my husband and I are looking to build for our son, which would be a legacy home community. This is our son, Corbin. He is 24. He is a young adult with autism. He currently lives with his sister and attends Santa Fe College. As he's gotten older, we have really started thinking about where is he going to live in the future. While he's pretty independent, he does still need some support. And right now we know that there's a very small percentage of adults with disabilities that are able to own or rent their own homes. So just as we look at statistics kind of across the country, you can see here how many citizens have intellectual or developmental disabilities here in the US. And there's just a really small percent that have access to sports to live outside of their home. And this last statistic is very interesting because our own son has said, I want to move back home, mom and dad, because it's really lonely when I'm by myself. And so, that is something we know he's just going to need support, and he's going to need to be around other individuals that love and support him. I'm sure most of you can think back to when the day came that you got to move out of your parents' home, and there was probably a lot of excitement about that, and you got to make your own rules and eat what you wanted to eat. So right now, the statistics are that 80 to 90% of adults with autism between the ages of 19 and 30 are going to be living at home. And the other statistic is that individuals with autism typically don't have a lot of health issues, so they are going to outlive their parents. So the problem that we have today is, where are these kiddos going to live? Where are these adults going to live? So there's a lot of different options for individuals to live. I highlighted the top one because this is our focus, is this independent living community where families could actually purchase the home for their adult with autism, so that someday when the parents have passed on, they will at least know that their child has the opportunity or the legacy of home ownership. So anyway, I kind of shared with you just a little bit about my dream there that I had when my husband retired from the Air Force and we came down here to Orlando. We started saying, okay, what is going to be the next step for Corbin, for our son? And then the dream grew, and we said, well, could we build a community for other adults like Corbin and really just expand on that dream and leave a legacy for more than our son? So the dream right now would be to have a community similar to this that had shops at the bottom and condos at the top. The shops at the bottom could be things like medical providers. They could be someplace that the individuals could work, or just go grab some food or some coffee and someplace for them to hang out. And more importantly, that they would become included in the environment or the community. They would get to know other business owners, other residents of the community that could become like family to them and could become friends. So some of the features of the homes that we have been looking for are, secure entry, the biometric door locks. Some of our kids, our son included, are very susceptible to scams out there and just other individuals that might take advantage of them. Maybe they would share their key. And so security is certainly one of our first issues. Smart home devices like Ring, motion sensor light switches are things that we've looked at. Ovens that have shut off capabilities, after a certain time. So you can kind of look through some of those, and those have been some of the things that we're exploring. And I looked into kind of what are some things that are offered in retirement communities for senior citizens, because there's some of the same concerns in those communities that our community would have. And then we were looking at the community as a whole and having a community room and the possibility of hiring a social worker who would have set hours and would be able to teach things like cooking classes or budgeting type things, job skills. Job skills are really difficult. Our son has in the past had a hard time keeping a job, and he's certainly underemployed. And so how could those things be addressed in this and within these community amenities? Some additional services, there'll certainly be things that families would like to add on. Like I mentioned, the job coaching, an autism like life coach, maybe there's safety switches that go towards, some of our kids have seizures. So maybe something like a life alert type of system, and then access to things like gym and vocational activities, meal packages, maybe housekeeping. Our first floor business options, this was like my initial dream, if we could have a primary care physician that would work with our individuals, a dentist, a coffee shop with grab and go kiosks, things like that. Right now, we're in the process of, we're just searching for the right location. Orlando is booming, which is not a great thing for us just because finding land can be difficult. And certainly we want access to entertainment, employment, shopping, and healthcare. One of our initial places we thought of was near Universal Studios. Universal Studios is actually a really great employer, and they're very open to hiring adults with autism, which is great. There's certainly full-time employment there, which allows for benefits and other things like that. Public transportation here in Orlando is very difficult. And so looking at a community that might have some walkable options would also be great. And lastly, the legacy for us, besides leaving this community, would be being able to help other parents. As I just started to talk to parents in other locations and just other people within the business community, almost everyone I spoke to said, I know an adult with autism, or I know a family that would be so interested in this. So that's the dream for us. 2020 was supposed to be the year we were actually going to go visit some residential centers and just go see what's going on in other parts of the country. Hopefully by next year, we'll be able to do that and more places will be open. In Jacksonville, the Arc of Jacksonville has opened a center or a housing community that is for rent. In Lakeland, there's Noah's Ark. That's another community where individuals rent. Based on my research so far, I haven't really found very many communities where the parents could actually buy. So to me, that would be important because for us, like I mentioned, that's part of leaving the legacy for our son. So I just listed some places here that we took a look at. A place to call home is in the planning process like ourselves. Noah's Ark that I mentioned in Lakeland and the Arc of Jacksonville. First Place in Phoenix seems to be a really excellent model community, and that's one of the ones that we want to visit. They seem to be leading the industry and giving, they seem to be generous with their information and sharing. They've already replicated a community in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Rebecca, you're at time.
Oh, okay. That was my last slide, just my research. Thank you. Let's see, how do I get out of this?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Very, very noble business here. I am curious a little bit more to know more about the business model. Is this you didn't say anything about a nonprofit. Is a for-profit model, and then can you describe like how it would run? I suppose maybe more on the business side, as far as just how it would make money, or kind of a little more detail there, please.
Well, honestly, it's not really a money-making. We're not looking at it to be a money-making opportunity. What we're actually looking at is that we would build the model and then we would pre-sell these homes. So being able to find a general contractor and a construction company that would be willing to walk alongside with us. To be perfectly honest, this is completely out of our wheelhouse. We're learning. And so that was part of presenting, because we don't really know, but it's not for us to make it. This isn't kind of a business in that way that we're looking to do. We're looking to set the model up and then maybe have it as a go. We didn't really look into the nonprofit opportunities right now, because I'm not really sure if that's where the space we want to be in.
Yeah, I'm definitely not suggesting nonprofit. I was just asking.
Yeah.
That seems to be a lot of the default people go to when they have a very noble cause. They think it has to be a nonprofit, and that's absolutely not true. So I'm glad you're at least open to other models, other business models.
Yes.
So what help do you need? I guess, is there an introduction? Is there a specific introduction that would be like, I would love to meet this person or organization that maybe would be a good resource or a guide in this?
Not yet.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't know. Jarrett retired from the Air Force 3 years ago, and we came home to Florida and said, we want to do this, and then what do we do? And so we sat down with someone in the SBA in 2018, and then what happened in 2019 and 20, and here we are. So the dream kind of got stalled a little bit in terms of like, who do we talk to? Where do we go visit? Where do we even start? And so the more I think about it, the more I say, I just have to present. I need people to ask me the questions that I need to be asking someone else.
Yep. That's why we're asking. So this is good. Denny says, great idea. Cost, question mark. Have you formed a charity yet? You need to get on the preferred list for the United Way and other charities who are willing to give you a steady stream of money. So that's Denny's thought on that.
I think we'd have to be a nonprofit for that. I'm not 100% sure.
Might have to be. Yeah, I'm not sure about that either. Or maybe there is a partnership possibility as a for-profit also, that I'm not sure about. Rupert says it's going to be very hard to attract partners which you need if you're not offering them any real value. Like even nonprofits offer like tax savings. So I guess it's just trying to maybe get a little more clarity around the business model and the value you're providing to find those partnerships.
Okay.
Eric asks, would the businesses be self-sustaining businesses that are open to the public, or would they be cater only to the residents? Would it be kind of a closed community, or would it be open?
It would be an open community. Absolutely. Because part of the thought has been that the rent that's coming from those businesses in the bottom would pay for some of the services that we would offer to our young adults, such as having that full-time clinical social worker on staff.
Okay, good. That makes sense. Eric also asked, would residents move from other parts of the country in order to live in this facility here? Or is there enough need in Central Florida to support a facility like this?
I'm 100% sure that there is enough need here in Florida. The Arc of Jacksonville has been open for 4 years now, and they're no longer taking applications because their wait list is so far out. When we moved here in 2018, they'd been only open for a couple of years, and at that point there was a 2-year wait list. So there probably would be families that would move here from other states, but I'm 100% sure there's enough need just here in Florida.
Okay, and which brings up an interesting point too, because there are other organizations doing something similar. So is there something you're doing that's particularly unique versus these other folks, or are you just kind of doing your own version of it, but it's essentially the same kind of community?
All of the communities I've checked out have been slightly different. Ours would be home ownership is the biggest difference that we are proposing.
So the others don't offer home ownership. It's more of a rental.
Yes.
If I can jump in real quick, I think some of the uniqueness. Hi, I'm Jarrett. I normally listen from afar. I think some of the uniqueness really goes back to the home ownership, but I think with that, there's an education process that needs to go. And usually when I engage in these conversations, I'm going to say we're all roughly of around the same age. When we grew up, I actually knew an autistic kid that I went to school with, but there weren't a lot out there. Usually if you had a special needs, it was a Down syndrome or something, something of that nature. And again, I grew up with family friends that had that. And those kids, as sad as it is, never outlived mom and dad. They've all passed. A lot of mine, peers passed when they were in their 30s, if they made it that long. So I think there's an education program going that needs to take place that these kids, and she referenced it, there's not the health problem. So I don't think the mindset for a lot of people is look, when I expire, my child is going to live another 20 or 30 years beyond that. So I think that's starting to come, and we've seen that prior to the lockdown and some of the conferences we attended here in Central Florida that I think really highlighted this as much as anything else. So I think part of that goes on, but then I think also where that home ownership comes in, because for those who are familiar with there's a lot of rules and regulations for these kids. A lot of them are going to be on Social Security benefits, and it's just a litany of litigation and limitations. And this is where, with these families wanting to set up trusts for their kids because they can only hold so much money in the bank account, for those who are familiar with that, this is where having a trust that actually owns the home or the living arrangement, whatever it may be, allows some permanence. And the fear is when you get into these rental situations, and mom and dad have passed away, there's going to be a certain level of uncertainty depending on who's handling the finances in this case. Is it a trustworthy brother, or was that individual an only child? And now it starts getting a little bit murky. Those are some of the stories we've heard in the past. And so I think that's the biggest distinguisher.
No, I appreciate that. That actually makes a lot of sense. So especially with, you said permanence, and these kids, it's like mom and dad, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be living a full life. And I think that's a powerful message right there. And that is definitely something that needs to be educated, that people need to understand. And that would be a great, unique value proposition as well. So I just like the way that sounds. Just my 2 cents on that. Rupert says, have you looked into safety and security of the neighborhood? There are many instances of police having problems dealing with people in the autistic spectrum. I suggest partnering up with an organization that offers training for police departments.
So I'm a board member for the Autism Society of Greater Orlando, and that is one of our main focuses. Is actually we provide free training to any police officer in the state of Florida. Will travel there, and actually we have a presentation coming up in Puerto Rico soon, so it's kind of exciting. But yes, that's a big initiative for the Autism Society of Greater Orlando.
And then as far as like educating the other people in society, do you have initiatives going out there just in general, educating people on, again, the permanence, right? These people, these kids, they're going to live full and fantastic lives. Yeah. And we better get used to it. We better prepare for it. And Eric mentioned talking to like city council and getting city government involved, because this is a society, it's good. They're going to be part of society for a long time, and we should be open and excited about that.
Yes. Well, and again, this was my first time doing this presentation, and so that is the goal. And there's actually a gala coming up, and Mayor Dimmings will be there, and his wife, U.S. Representative Val Dimmings, will be there, and several county commissioners. And so I have to kind of get my pitch together, because if I have the opportunity to talk to them, it's only going to be for a short time, and I just need to talk to them about these legacy homes. And that's really my term for it, is legacy homes, because it is leaving that legacy and security for your child.
Yeah, fantastic. Rupert also says the Dr. Phillips Foundation is building a large Baldwin Park-like community on OBT in Princeton, and perhaps they'd be open to listening to ideas regarding a pilot project.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So there's something to look into for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
And there are people here too, if you need help with a pitch and just to really craft something powerful and persuasive, please reach out, let us know.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So with that, I'm going to send it over to Eric for our final question.
All right. Thank you. Congratulations. And thank you for letting us be the first group to hear the pitch. One thing I do suggest when you are at the meeting with the mayor and Representative Demings, just remember, you are not there to convince them of the project. Your conversation is to get a meeting
Right.
to convince them of a project. So, so focus on, a 15-second explanation, with enough information for follow-up questions, and, have that locked away.
Yeah.
So,
And on that point, by the way, think of sharing your mission. Think of this as, here's where I'm going. Here's my vision, what it's going to look like when we get there. And I'm not stopping with or without you. Have that just kind of that stand that you put out there. And then Eric's right. They'll be more interested and compelled and curious, like, oh shit, this lady ain't going to stop. So I'm curious now. I want to be part of this, right? It's more of a compelling message than trying to pitch them, than trying to convince them.
Yeah.
So
yep, I'm excited about this for you.
yeah,
Thank you.
great job.
So the question is that I ask, and you've heard before, is what can we as a community do for you, especially we as a community where you're going to do this? What can we do?
Right now, I just need to get connected with the right people. And that's everyone from right now. I'm looking for some construction companies that I can sit down and just say, just give me ideas of what this is going to cost, so that when I start to make these proposals together, and then someone, maybe the Dr. Phillips Foundation that someone was mentioning, how do I get in front of the right people to just start talking to them and see where the interest might be?
Okay. Excellent. Well, I know people in
Eric,
this group know the right people. So,
Eric, I have a suggestion. Maybe
Okay.
Rebeka may want to meet with Josh. He can help you out putting your pitch together, whoever you meet,
That would be great.
connect him.
and I think Denny and Rupert and Sean all know those right people that you should talk to, or at least they know who they are. So I would also recommend reaching out to each of them.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you. All right, Adam. Wait, I'm gonna show you guys off for a second. I forgot to change it. It is Adam Shafer instead of AJ
Okay.
DeLeon from Innovare, and I am curious to know what Innovare is and does, and so you're the guy to tell us.
Wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity. And let me go ahead and share my screen here. And if you would, just let me know that you are seeing this.
Yes.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Adam Shafer. I am with Innovare Social Innovation Partners. We are an education technology company founded in 2017. I really appreciate the opportunity to present to you all today and to discuss a little bit about what Innovare is and does and what we hope to be. So Eric, I'm going to jump to your last question first so we can kind of frame this whole conversation. So what can the 1 million cups in Orlando do for Innovare today? We're really, as we've done a few of these 1 million cups in presentations in territories that we're looking to expand. And these are the three main things that we are trying to gain through these presentations. So the first one is insights to the business model, things we're doing, not doing, that you're going to see laid out in this presentation. Second one is the connections. So as we expand into these new markets, we're based in Chicago. Most of our partners are in Chicago, some in Missouri, some in New York. As we look to expand, it's making those connections to either the Orange County Public Schools, organizations, conferences, associations that we can just start to connect, make those relationships, and then build our business that way. And then third is messaging of this presentation. We want to make sure that how we're presenting our company lands as we hope it does, and we're always looking to improve and gain different insights from different communities. So the problem that we're facing, education leaders deserve to have the tools they need to help them be more effective at their jobs. So we're finding that education leaders, like superintendents, principals, they have too many data systems, information systems, their dashboards that they use on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to help track progress, to build strategies. Those dashboards are just not helpful. And then they really have difficulties in overseeing teams through these different systems. Their information is kind of piecemeal. The other problem we're facing is the state of education in our country, specifically in Florida. And these statistics are from 2019. So only 35 up to 35% of eighth graders are proficient in reading and math. So that means that 60 to 65% of eighth graders are underperforming or not meeting proficiency in reading and math. And this is not just in Florida. The statistics are very similar across the states and then also across the year. So it's a consistent problem that we hope to face. And how are we at Innovare hoping to solve that? How are we hoping to play that part? So what we do is we empower education leaders with technology that they need to impact their communities that they serve. So we have two main functions. First is our app, which we call Inno. Our app combines data and strategic planning into one intelligent tool. So they no longer have those disparate systems that they have to log in like 12 different places. They can go to one centralized place to get the data to build their strategies, to operationalize their strategies. And then the second one is the Innoverse, what we call our community of change makers, because we know that there are so many education leaders out there doing great work. We want to connect them so they can be thought partners to build that social innovation throughout the communities, to make it more efficient, to make it easier to make this change that we're hoping to make. So there are four different aspects of what we do. First and foremost, we are a very human-centered design focused company. We know that one solution does not serve every community. So we understand that going into a new community of schools, districts, organizations, foundations, whatnot, we have to take a human-centered approach, an individual approach. So the first thing we do is we understand the goals of the school or of the organization. We talk to the leaders, the leadership team, and understand what their specific goals are for that community. Second is we work with the data in the way that the partner needs it and wants it. So we streamline the data, we make sure it's relevant and efficient for them to use. Third, we know that data is only as good as what we do with it. So we have to go beyond the data. We don't want just simple, nice visual dashboards. We want something that we can take action upon. So within Inno, and you'll see in just a minute, within Inno, we have a strategic planning part of the app because we want to operationalize those changes, that continuous improvement. And then the last thing we have is a community of change makers. So we want to make those connections. We want to provide professional development to education leaders with the knowledge that their peers that we have garnered through this process. So let's dive a little bit deeper into what Inno is. So the first thing is simplified and clean data. Like I said, schools, education leaders use umpteen different dashboards or data systems, and it's really hard and time consuming for them to come to decisions on like progress and making decisions on future strategies with so many disparate systems. What we do is we simplify and clean that data so that they can triangulate the insights into what they need to do. Next is that data-driven strategy. So we integrate the best practices into the system. So we know that schools, every single school has to provide a strategic plan or an action plan to their boards, to the state board. Oftentimes those strategies are in PDF form, so they're not very usable. They're kind of a guide rather than an action plan in a sense. So what we do is we can embed the strategic plan and make it operational, make it functional, where you can drag and drop different resources into it, assign teams to different actions. So it's like a project management system. And then lastly, the impact. So we know that part of what we do is report that impact back to our school boards, to our stakeholders, to the community overall. So within Inno, we can also provide those impact reports. Our primary persona, our primary customer is the principal, the superintendent, and education leaders. We work with schools, nonprofit organizations in the education space, as well as foundations. Mostly we work in the K through 12 space in the public and charter school ecosystem. And then our team, here's our team. We were founded by 3 men of color, which are the top 3 left individuals there. AJ, Eric, you mentioned AJ, he is the founder and CEO. And then we have a very diverse group of individuals from all sorts of backgrounds, from education, business to technology. We think that is one of our strengths, and we push for that as we continue to grow. And really, one thing that I really appreciate about Innovare is the purpose-driven aspect of our business. We're not just a business looking to grow, to expand. We are looking to empower the individuals and we value those education leaders. Like I said, we were founded in 2017. We've had some early successes. 4 out of 5 are likely to refer us to a friend, which we know referrals in the education space are key to how we grow. And then 97% renewal rates of our partners year over year. So we're continuing to keep our customers and then continuing to grow. So I will close with these 3 questions again. What can 1 Million Cups do to help us today? Looking for those insights, looking for those connections throughout the Central Florida, the Orlando region, and then messaging. How did this message land to you all today? And lastly, I will provide my Twitter and LinkedIn information if you'd like to stay connected. I would love to stay connected and continue this conversation.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. This is actually really, really interesting. So while it's on the tip of my mind, you say success. What is the exit strategy here? What is ultimate success? What does that look like? What does it feel like?
Yeah, I think ultimate success is, like I said, we were founded in Chicago. We have a pretty strong customer base here. We work closely with Chicago Public Schools. We have several charter partners here in Chicago. We have a few across the country, but really we want to expand this into these major markets, and especially like New York City, DC, Orlando, Tampa, major cities where we can expand our impact to provide those tools that education leaders need. The exit strategy, I don't necessarily know. That may be a question for AJ, Nick, and Fernando as the founders. We did just go through our first round of investment. We had a $3 million round of investment to build out the structures. Thank you. Like the sales team, which I'm a part of, the marketing team, the customer success team. So we're rapidly growing. And I don't know if we have a vision for how we exit. I think we just want to continue growing.
Okay, fair enough. Eric's question is this a competitor to Blackboard? And does it provide the testing and grading functions as well?
Good question. We have a lot of different systems that some may say are competitors, but we really aren't, because we aggregate information, we aggregate data systems, and then we build those strategies behind the data. So we would take information, we would integrate into like Blackboard, Infinite Campus, PowerSchool, several different systems, tons of different systems that we can then build dashboards based on that information from those testing systems, the like state assessment systems. We can build the dashboards. We can also then embed strategies behind those to track continuous improvement and to make sure that school leaders, school leadership teams have the tools they need to build the improvement in their communities.
Makes sense. Can you speak a little bit to IP here as far as just general protection? Is this is there some patented process here that you're using or algorithm, or is this more of a branding first person to do it? Not first, but is this more of a branding play, or is this you have like some trade secret or patented IP?
Yeah, I believe the integration in the dashboard is some of our IP. It's something that like school leaders have said for decades and decades. We knew, or maybe not decades, for years, that we need our data to talk together because we have different systems, but no one's actually taken the time to do it efficiently, to do it properly, and that is part of our IP. The second part is the strategic function behind the data, and I think combined with those, that's what goes into our RP.
Okay, makes sense. It's more like your own trade secret kind of thing, where it's not going to be easy for someone to come along and duplicate it. In other words,
yeah. And one more thing about the strategic planning part. So we are a growing company. We have a roadmap of how not only we're going to grow into different regions in the education space, but also how we're going to grow our functionality, grow our tools of what we do. So in the coming months, we've already started this in a trial period. We have in that strategic planning function, we have best practices that you can just drag and drop simply into the strategic plan. But what we're going to start doing is build in machine learning into, like, the school says attendance is our major issue. So the machine learning is going to suggest like this is one of those resources that you should look into. So it's going to push those, make superintendents, principals' jobs easier because it's going to be more efficient, less time consuming to look for those resources.
Makes sense. A little bit of AI. It's good. Denny says he's impressed that you're able to work with Chicago Public Schools because he's a product of that. And the bureaucracy, he says, is horrific. Are you dealing with the Board of Education itself or directly to school principals within that?
So two of our founders, AJ, founder and CEO, and then Nick Freeman, were both data strategists within CPS for several years. So they that was their previous job before founding Innovare. So they had those internal connections with CPS. We do primarily at this moment work directly with schools because the schools in the CPS system have more autonomy rather than the school board functioning for all decision makers. We are quickly building out our connections with the school board at the district level. Types of partnerships. Recently, we've met with community engagement, the equity departments as well. And then just the last week, the week before, CPS got a new CEO, executive leader. So we're working to make connections with that office as well.
Good, good. Yeah, that's actually definitely a bonus if they have the autonomy where you could talk to them directly. But it can also maybe be a challenge. On your, you mentioned about messaging and something just when you were talking, I just want to say kudos on the Innoverse concept and maybe play off of that because I think that's a great idea. So you got all these schools that are kind of lost in the educational universe, right? They're kind of isolated, uni meaning one by yourself. And then, it's a challenge them to join the Innoverse, which is this, collaboration, this community, the resources that they've been begging for. So you can kind of position yourself kind of like that, which I'm sure you are, but I just want to say I like that message, especially in contrast to the by yourself, right? The universe, which is a very vast and cold and desolate place.
Very good points. And that is, like I said, we have a roadmap for a lot of our functions. The part of the roadmap for that is to continue building out that community space, to push that as a kind of our value proposition to our potential partners. But also, as we build that out, we want to build it into a marketplace where we can make those connections. Like if a school doesn't have the resources or doesn't know how to look for consultant X or service Y, we act as that space to build those communities together to make the connections.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great play moving forward. That's definitely going to be important. I had another question. Oh, so along the same lines, how are you doing your marketing? What is that? I'm going to ask it a different way. What are your first impressions? How do people, what's that initial contact point that you're using that's either successful or a different contact point you would like? Like, are you advertising? Is it just calling them up, cold calling these conversations, getting them started, leveraging referrals? What's been your best avenue for getting in front of people?
Very pertinent question for right now. So we, like I said, we're about 4 years old. We have been primarily driven by the relationship / referral business line. We are looking to expand that because we know in order to expand nationally, we have to start building out those systems, those frameworks for that cold call outreach, and see how we can do that effectively and efficiently. We are a small sales team, so it's myself. I see the eastern half of the country, and my partner Iser, he oversees the western half of the country, and then Nick is our sales director, essentially. So we're taking this time to build the systems, to scale, essentially. But right now, our first impressions really are those referrals. Recently, we've attended a couple of conferences in New York. We've gotten a lot of leads from that. We have another one in Missouri tomorrow. We're looking at one in Tampa, I believe, in February. So we're finding that that's a really successful way in.
That's the best time to be in Tampa.
I would agree. It's probably the worst time to be in Chicago, which is where I'm at. So I will gladly go.
Nice. Yeah. I always think of those things. So what is your, can you go a little more detail on your business model? Like, how do you guys make money? Is this just subscription? Maybe if, I apologize if I missed it. There was a lot of really good information in your presentation. But what's the, is it upfront cost or subscription based, or how does that work in your business model?
Yeah, thanks for that question. That's one of the things that we can, as we continue to do more of these 1 million cups presentations, can clarify in one of those slides. We are a subscription-based model, and we have different tiers. So if a school has like 7 different dashboards they want to integrate into Inno, we can price it out that way. If they have 10, 15, so we do it based on the number of dashboards they want to see, and then also the number of users they want to use the system. We can also package it based on whether it's a district level, like a portfolio package. We have different pricing for that as well.
Okay, so it's package based, but also can be customized based on the
Right.
school's need. Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, and so you mentioned that you're an aggregator of information. What is your main, what's your number one competition then that is out there? Because you said no one else has really been doing this, but is there anyone close to doing this or has tried to do this and it didn't work out? Like what's the competition space look like for what, more precisely what you do?
Yeah, if we can package everything that Innovare does, from data to strategy to impact to community, no one does those 4 things together. We do have those like the single individual project management systems. And sorry, I just got to notice that my internet is unstable, so hopefully I don't go out. There are different systems like project management based, like Asana, different things like that. There may be some for impact reporting, but there's no single source or no single company out there on the market that does all of that together. And that's how we pitch ourselves, is we want to be the one-stop shop for these education leaders, because part of the value proposition is saving time, making it easier for them to impact their school communities, their nonprofit communities, their organizations.
Okay, fair enough. Just please don't use the term one-stop shop in your marketing or branding. That's
Don't like it.
Just my 2 cents, man. That has been way overplayed. But yeah, as long as you don't use that in your messaging, and instead just talk about the universe. Yeah, talk about the universe. That's great, right? We do everything under the universe. Yeah, I would coin that. Good. I would trademark that. I think that would resonate, because again, you are all inclusive. You are connecting to all these different systems, and you want people begging to be part of the universe. Not the universe, but the universe. They're already stuck in the universe. So cool. We have one, quantify your, let's see, Denny says, quantify your results. Chicago schools have such a bad reputation that if you can show real improvement, you will be golden when it comes to spreading your company around the country. So using, talk to using Chicago as like the model, I guess. Is that what you've been doing? Or is that a good idea?
I think it is a good idea. I think one of the aspects that will help us moving forward is understanding our measurable impact in communities. We have testimonials from school leaders. They're glad to give us like video testimonials, messaging that talk about how we're saving them time, making their jobs easier. We don't necessarily know like the quantifiable data. This school, because of Innovare, improved reading by X or attendance by Y. And I think it can be a little bit of a prickly conversation or a difficult conversation, because we don't want to like overpromise and say, well, with Innovare, you can improve your attendance by 5%. We don't want to get into that space at all, because we don't want to overpromise that. But having the qualitative information and testimonials behind our partner experiences would help a lot, I think.
Yeah, and I guess that's the difference between causation and correlation. So if reading did get better over the time that your system was being used, that's a correlation. But you're right, it's not necessarily a causation connection there. So,
and part of that, creating that community, like making those connections, we can easily make a connection with prospect A with partner B and say, you two speak, you're more than happy to share those quantitative stories of what happened, but that's not something we own.
Yep, I love it. All right, I'm going to send it to Eric for our final question. Yeah, I know, even though you answered it in the beginning, but we're going to let you go ahead and expand on that a little bit.
I guess I'll vary the question a little bit. Is there some other third thing that we could do for you as a community?
Well, I think our second point is the main thing that we really want help on, and I want to drop this in here, is making those connections. And I'm going to drop my LinkedIn just so you have it easily at your fingertips. Making those connections, whether you know of principals, school leaders that may enjoy talking with us, sharing their pain points, or if you know of conferences, associations, even ed tech associations in Orlando, throughout Central Florida, I think that would really help us a lot.
Okay, great. I wish we had Jane Tracy here today. She is with the Orange County Public Library System, and I know she knows a lot of educators. So maybe we can.
Wonderful. Yeah, if you can connect me with Jane, I would love to follow up.
Sure.